Hello and welcome to even more information about the human eye as it relates to the perception of virtual reality images. Our eyes are essentially sensors for electromagnetic waves. Let's look at the entire spectrum of electromagnetic waves for a moment. In this spectrum, we will find gamma rays, X-rays, microwaves, radar, and radio. And right in between all those is the spectrum of visible light, nestled between ultraviolet and infrared light. Objects in our environment reflect different wavelengths at different intensities. Every type of surface has its own reflectance spectrum. In this picture, we can see the reflectance spectra of several metals like silver, or gold, or aluminum. Now, how do our eyes perceive the light spectrum that's reflected off of objects? Our retina is covered with light-sensitive cells which sense light of different wavelengths. It turns out that there are 4 types of these photoreceptor cells, and they're distinguished by their shape. They're rods, and there are 3 types of cones. Looking at the retina under a microscope, one will find that the photoreceptor cells are dense enough for us to see a resolution of 150 pixels per degree in the center of our view, where our vision is the clearest. It turns out that there are many more rods than cones, but the cones are the ones that are able to distinguish different wavelengths. The rods can only sense light intensity, but because there are more of them, they are dominant in low light conditions. This means that in low light, we lose our color vision ability. Through measurements, it was found that each of the 3 types of cones is responsible for a different subset of the visible light spectrum. This is called the trichromatic theory. One type of cone is sensitive for red light, one for blue, and one for green. To optimally be able to represent the light spectrum humans can see, all our displays composite color images out of 3 basic colors: red, green, and blue. In combination, this approach can generate all colors the human eye can see. Besides color, there are a couple more parameters we need to know about the eye to fully understand what is needed for perfect VR. One is the field of view. Through measurements, it was found that the combined field of view between both eyes is up to 220 degrees. Granted, in the outside areas, we can basically only sense motion. We don't see any detail. In the center of our vision is a 120-degree field which both eyes can see, and this is where binocular vision is, meaning that we can see the world in 3D stereo in these 120 degrees. Knowing that, we can do a quick calculation of how many pixels a head-mounted display would have to display to fully address the human field of view. At 145 by 135 degrees, and 150 pixels per degree, we'd have to have a 22,000 by 20,000 pixel display to render 440 million pixels for each eye. That's almost 1 billion pixels combined. If that was a one-time challenge, modern graphics cards with over 100 billion pixel rendering rates wouldn't be too intimidated. But we need to create these images at a rapid rate. Through measurements, it was found that, depending on the brightness of the environment, our eyes can distinguish up to 150 different frames per second. So the challenge for the ultimate VR display is to generate over 100 billion pixels 150 times per second. Granted, given the resolution distribution across our retina, we only need this high pixel density in a small area in the center of our vision. So there's great hope that in the future we can solve the problem through foveated rendering approaches where more pixels are rendered in the center of our vision that is determined with eye tracking hardware. This concludes our chapter on what we need to know about our eyes to build the ultimate VR display. In the next video, we're going to look at techniques to create 3D stereo images.